Let's take a look at a really powerful tool for finding the most profitable properties in any market to run as short-term rentals. It's called AirDNA, and they have a direct data feed to Airbnb's data, so it's unbeatable when it comes to comparing these properties. They also have a market analysis feature if you're at that stage of the game, but I've already picked out a market, so let's dive in and find properties. The market we're looking at today is Cocoa Beach, Florida. It gets a B+ as a market grade, and that breaks down into 5 categories. Rental demand, how much demand is there? Revenue growth, is revenue growing, flat, or falling? Seasonality, a higher score here means less seasonality. Florida's warm all the time, it's pretty good. Regulation, higher regulation score means less regulation and red tape. Florida's pretty good here as well. And investability takes into account how expensive properties are in the area versus how much you can charge for them on Airbnb. The top 3 cards here, average daily rate, occupancy rate, and revenue, are good snapshots. It's good to look at those for the seasonality effect and what you can expect and what the changes are from high to low season. Here's the map. This is cool. You can click on properties and it'll take you to their Airbnb listing. So it's cool to see exactly where they are. You can't do that on Airbnb. It gives you an approximate location. Rental channel shows you which channels you need to be on. I always say list on both because it's not that hard and I can teach you how to do that. Rental size is another one I like to look at. If something's really high, so everybody is, there's a lot of 2 bedrooms, I'm gonna stay away from a 2-bedroom because I don't want competition. I wanna be in a smaller niche that's gonna be easier to get booked and I can charge a little bit more. Rental growth just shows the growth of rental properties. There's not a lot we can take from that. Property managers, these are good property managers if you wanna go that route. I can also show you how to self-manage and save a huge chunk of change. Amenities is one of the ones that I really like to look at on this page because it's going to show you what are the must-haves. Anything over 90% is pretty much a must-have. Okay, air conditioning in Florida, that's a no-brainer. The other thing I like to look for though is something that's low because it represents an opportunity. So pools, only 40% of rentals have pools. That's probably a good thing to have. That's probably going to be an amenity that'll set you apart and help you get booked more. Airbnb ratings, I skip over. Rental activity, I also skip over. Rental settings, I like to just look for how many people are doing strict. I lean towards strict, so if 30 to 40% of people are doing strict, then it's okay to go that route. And then minimum stay, I also like to, I'm usually in the 2 or 3 night range. If there's something overwhelming, you can rethink that strategy, but I like that. Let's dive into each of these, right? Let's dive into our rate, our occupancy, and our revenue. So we're gonna come up here and under research, occupancy. So occupancy rate, how many nights per month that you're available are booked. 74% last month, that's pretty good. Booking lead time, what I like to look for is how far in advance people are booking out. And if my property is not booked out within that time frame or half of it, I really start thinking about discounts to drive that occupancy rate up. Booked properties, I don't even look at. Historical occupancy rates are good, but only if you narrow down your bedrooms. You like to look for big, wide peaks here. It's showing you that there's a lot of demand over a long part of the season. That's going to help you make your money. Always look at the low points too, just so you know what to expect in those off months. Now the other part of revenue is rates, right? How much you charge per night. Here again, the top 3 is an average of all property sizes, so it's not very important. The only thing on this page I do like is ADR range, because you can look at the candlestick, hover over it, and you can see at the different levels, what are you going to charge? You're probably not going to be in the 95th percentile of properties, so don't expect to get $800 a night. But within that 50th to 70th percentile, that's a pretty safe range for you to be in. So now that we've done occupancy and rate, we can look at revenue. And this is really good because AirDNA crunches those numbers, right, with all the data they have. So you're not guessing at an occupancy rate. You're not guessing at how much you can charge. So when you get to rental revenue here, narrow it down by bedroom again. If you want to look at the property size you're going to look at, and based on what we're doing, it's a 3 or 4 bedroom. So I like to look here at the peaks, but I also like to look at the low. Are you going to be able to cash flow at this low season 50th percentile? So now that we've done our revenue research, let's look at the price. And a lot of that's going to come down to seasonality. Cocoa Beach has great seasonality, but what's the best month? March. It's a lot easier to see how hot is March. Well, what about February and April? Smart Rates is going to show you that seasonality day by day and in dollar terms. You got to filter by your bedroom size because it's going to give you a more accurate picture. Okay, and what I like to look for here is any outliers. So the 4th of July weekend is $150 more than the day before. Well, that's telling me that's a hot weekend, right? 4th of July weekend, that's a good one. Maybe there's something that happens in this area that isn't a national holiday, so you're going to want to look for those, right? Maybe you're in Daytona Beach, Florida. Well, there's like a race, there's all sorts of bike weeks there, and that's going to help you discover these things in the markets that you aren't familiar with, which is why I really love this tool. Okay, now that we've looked at revenue and seasonality and as a whole in the market, let's dive into a specific property. And this is where this gets so cool, because you can enter an address and it's going to tell you specifically about that property, what you can expect. So let's go over to Zillow here. Oh, not that one. I'm buying that one. Here, this one, 150 Suwannee Lane. So let's grab that address off of Zillow. Let's drop it right in here. Pulls it up. Your annual revenue you can expect is about $82,000, broken down by that daily rate and that occupancy. But here's where it gets really cool. So revenue is great, but as investors, we know net operating income is where it's at. That's the number you're going to cash flow on. That's the number that you're going to pay your bills with. So you need to make sure that that's accurate, and you do that by hitting this little edit details button, which nobody ever sees. But this is going to let you change your expenses, because we all know revenue minus expenses equals net operating income. And so you're going to want to enter every expense you can think of that you know, and even estimate some if you have to. But the more accurate your net operating income is, the more accurate your whole projection on how profitable you're going to be is. Seasonal revenue forecast doesn't really tell us a lot. What I do like to do, though, is come down here and look at the comp properties, right? You don't want to just trust their data blindly. You want to come down here and look at what data they're using to crunch. And for me, I know that this little blue dot on here is our subject property that we entered. So here's one. I'm going to look at this one because it's really close to our subject property, the blue dot on the map. And it's the same size, same amount of guests I want to sleep. It's called the Sun and Surf House. Now this is where it gets really neat. AirDNA knows that they made $45,500 last year, but based on their math, they could have made $56,000. So they left $11,000 on the table. You're not going to pay $11,000 for this AirDNA report, so that's just money they left on the table that if they had this tool and they knew what we know, they could have made a lot more money. And this is really cool too. You can also click and see their Airbnb listing. So you can look at how is it decorated? What amenities do they have? Can I beat that? So it's really it's a good competitive analysis tool, right? You can look at your direct competitors and see what are their amenities? What do their decorations look like? How high end is it? Is there any opportunity that you see? Are they missing a parking stall or a coffee maker, right? Examine your competition. Send them a direct message and ask them questions. Get to know them. They don't even know that you're their competition, so they might tell you way more than they should. Never hurts to reach out and send them a message. Now that we've looked at the Rentalizer, that super cool, look at this specific property tool, this is another thing I like to look for in the competitive analysis side is the top properties tab. First thing we need to do, though, is narrow down the bedrooms. Otherwise, we're going to be chasing our tail. Now, the data isn't very good at telling us, location-wise, it has a hard time with waterfront versus not waterfront. So you're going to have to do a little bit of that human math. But as I come down here, I'm looking for something that's 3-bed, 2-bath with a pool. Oh, the Lighthouse Landing. They made $170,000 last year. So when I look at that, what is the first thing I see here? I'm going to need a pool to maximize my revenue. That's why AirDNA is my favorite tool. It's really powerful looking at the entire market in terms of revenue and seasonality, but you can also deep dive into a specific property and do a competitive analysis. So you can go from making maybe $82,000 to $170,000, which is a big difference. If you guys have questions on this or any other thing, short-term rental or real estate investing, drop them in the comments below. Follow this channel, follow us on Instagram. We got plenty more great content for you guys. Thanks a lot for being here. I'm George Uno, and I'll see you on the next one.